I'm Reisigo, and I'm attempting to complete every single GameCube game, but I'm randomizing what game I'm playing next. In this episode, we're tasked with completing puzzles before the bubbles touch the bottom of the screen in Bust-A-Move 3000. So let's see how our experience with Bust-A-Move 3000 went in 2024. Bust-A-Move 3000 was released on February 12, 2003, and was developed by Taito and published by Ubisoft. Bust-A-Move 3000 is a puzzle video game that was a direct port of Super Bust-A-Move that was released 3 years earlier on the PlayStation 2. When we open up the game, we're greeted with a cute little cartoon cutscene that shows us all the characters that we can play in the game. I never learned anyone's name from the game itself, but we're awarded with the ability to play as Mog, a cat-like creature, Ketch, which looks a bit like B-Max from Big Hero 6, Pukodon, a weird blue ball thing, Mr. At-Sign, which is a robot that can turn into a rocket, Wooloo, who looks like a little kid that has clothes that are way too big for him, but I guess he's a prankster, Tom and Yam, who are two frog brothers and the characters that I used in my playthrough of this game. The younger brother Yam looks like Kermit the Frog, Pinky, who looks like she has an electric outlet for a face, Misty, a mysterious woman that's working as a supermodel, Katsi, who is a half-blue and half-red hypnotist, who wants to conquer the universe, and lastly we have Fungia, which is an interesting creature that serves Katsi, and that covers all of our characters in this game. You really don't get any of this during the playthrough, but I felt like I should at least mention them. Now let's talk about the gameplay and our requirements for completing the game for the challenge. That's simple for this game. We have to go through the one-player puzzle normal mode and get the end story cutscene to consider this one complete. When going through the puzzle mode, we have this grid we can travel through. It branches out and we can pick whatever letter or symbol on it until we get to the top. So potentially people can have very different playthroughs of this game depending on what letters they pick. Once we decide on a letter, we have to complete 5 levels in that letter before we can move to the next letter. Some of the levels are challenging, and some of them are pretty easy, and they take just a matter of seconds to complete. Now I'm going to talk about the gameplay for this game. When entering a level, there are different colored bubbles everywhere, and they will slowly move towards our character at the bottom of the level. If the bubbles get to us, we lose the level and we have to try again. We, as the player, get to use this air pump cannon gun thing and shoot bubbles at the other bubbles. If we connect 3 or more together, they will go away, and our goal for each level is to get rid of all the bubbles on the screen. There are strategies to this, such as taking out higher sections of the bubbles, causing the lower bubbles attached to it to go away, but I'm not good at this game and never got good while playing this. So I just tried over and over again until I eventually got it. There are power-ups that we can activate, such as getting rid of all the bubbles of a specific color when hitting these flashy bubbles that are on the screen. There are massive bubbles, and when you hit them with the same color, it will turn all the other bubbles that are attached to it into that color. There are rainbows that will turn into a color we hit it with, and this can cause us to get some massive combos, along with a few other things along the way. It feels completely random when playing what sort of power-ups will appear in each level. There are also things that make the puzzles harder, like blocks that we can't shoot through, and they will only fall when there's nothing touching them. This game is very simple at its core, but if someone was good at it, I think it would be really interesting to watch them. It'd be sort of like a Tetris or something. I think that covers all the gameplay elements of the game, so let's talk about my experience with this one. I started with A for my first path on the board, and overall it wasn't too bad. I was learning how to play the game still, and I had such a problem when aiming. The nice thing that this game does though is that if we fail a level once, it will show us the path that the bubble will take, making lining up shots so much easier. I just feel like the controller is so touchy that it's hard to line up a shot well. And then having all the bubbles falling down towards you doesn't give you a whole lot of time to mess with it. Anyways, after completing A, we're ready to move on to our next path. But before we do, let's talk about the screen after completing each individual level. This screen will pop up and tell us our time bonus, which gives us points if we finish the level fast enough, and our passage time, which is just how long it took for us to complete the level. The points don't really matter unless you're trying to set a high score, but this shows up after every single level. For our next path, I could pick between C and D, and I went with D on this move just to keep myself in the middle of the board, just in case I wanted to head towards something further up. But level D isn't much different than the previous level, besides the art in the background is different. I want to mention it now because I think it deserves a mention, that the music in this game is very good. It's all catchy and makes retrying levels not feel even worse. So if you haven't checked out some of the music in this game, I recommend it. After completing level D, we're given the choices of G and H. I didn't really have a reason for my decision on this one, so I just picked one. Also, we can change our character at any time. It's a pretty nice feature if you ever felt like using the same character got old. Level G has kids blocks as the background, and during the final section of this level, I hit one of those flashy bubbles and it knocked down all the other bubbles, making that one of the easiest puzzles in the game. We completed that puzzle in 13 seconds, which is insane for me. Once we completed G, we're able to pick between K and L this time. This time I wanted to stay in the middle of the board again, so I went with L, and the background for this one is one that I can't really figure out what it is. It sort of reminds me of like glass art or something, but I'm not completely sure. The final section of level L was simple as well and just had a bunch of rainbow bubbles, so if we made the right moves, we could get rid of the puzzle in just big sections. I didn't do that though, because I'm not good at this game. I think the pressure of acting quickly makes me freak out and then I make mistakes. But after my first couple shots, I was able to figure out what the puzzle wanted me to do, and we still finished it in 17 seconds, so not too bad. The next choices were between Q and R, and I chose R because Reisigo, like my channel, that was my reasoning. R was back to the cubes in the background, but these reminded me of Cubert cubes instead of kids blocks. The final section of this level added a new mechanic to try and mess me up, and that was having red and blue arrows that would shift the bubbles once in that direction. You could basically avoid it the whole time, but it was interesting, and I think you could use it as an advantage if you knew what the best moves would be. Now we're moving into our final path. We can either do a question mark or the letter X, and since we haven't seen a symbol yet, I chose that one, but this level would have the worst puzzle that I would get stuck on for over a half hour, maybe longer. I have no idea what it was, but I couldn't clear out enough space fast enough, and a bubble would always cross the line. There's a pyramid made out of blocks, and we need to get the bubbles off of them, and that's the challenge in itself. I'm convinced I got lucky during the one attempt that I was able to beat this one, but this puzzle was pushing me to my breaking point while playing this. And it's not even the final puzzle for this letter, it's the third one. The question mark level has bubbles in the background with a little robot at the top of the screen, and that's a pretty nice design. Once completing that level, we get to puzzle 4, and this one reminds me of being in a crane machine. It's more of the same, using blocks to make us work around using the walls in this level. But I was able to clear this one out pretty quickly in just a few attempts. Now on to the final puzzle of the game, puzzle question mark 5. And this one has column walls that keeps the bubbles separate from each other, but it gives us a bunch of power-ups, making this level very easy, and I actually beat this one on my first try, getting a nice congratulations and a little cutscene that gives us a bit of information about our characters. It shows the moon on one side of the screen, and then it states, "I've entered the cosmos, and nothing is moving. This must be the end of the universe." That's all we get. Once the screen fades to black, we get a button combination for a cheat code, which I never tried, so I have no idea what it does. Then we enter our name for a high score, and then we get the game over screen, but no credits for this one. That completes Bust a Move 3000 though, and we can add it to our list of GameCube games we've completed for the challenge. Now I need to decide if I would recommend this game. So would I recommend this one? I honestly don't know if I would or wouldn't. It's very hard for me. It's a fun puzzle game, and there are a bunch of different routes that will give you different puzzles. They have a fun cast of characters, but there just isn't much to it. I was able to finish the game once in around 2 hours, and I didn't have any desire to go back. So I can't make up my mind for this one. So for now, this is a I'm not sure. But let me know what you think about it in the comments below. If you want to know what game we're playing next, stick around. But if not, thanks for watching. Check out the last GameCube game that we completed in our challenge. That's on the screen now. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel because it helps me out. Like and share this video so we can get more eyes on this challenge. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. We have our GameCube game list up. We got our random number generator up. And on the count of 3, we're going to find out what we're playing next. 3, 2, 1. 75, which is Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex.